Welcome to Slaughterhouse Stories. I hope you enjoy the story I have for you tonight.
Bedtime for my daughter.
My daughter finds it hard to fall asleep at bedtime. More often than not, she's up until 10. I suppose it wouldn't be so bad, but she's only 4, and she should be sleeping much more. But it never really bothered me. I stay up rather late as well, and with her near me, I have someone else to talk to. Sometimes we have wild discussions about aliens, horses of all kinds, some with wings, some with horns, the kinds of horses all little girls dream about. But tonight we were talking about monsters. This struck me as a little odd because she never wanted to talk about anything scary, and the kind of monsters she was talking about were rather frightening to me. For whatever reason, she thought up this monster with jagged teeth to rip into flesh. It had scales like a fish, slimy and tough, like the armor of an armadillo. But that wasn't the scariest part. That honor was given to what it would do to its prey. This monster will stalk you for a while, perhaps even get you to trust it, then attack. When I asked my daughter how that happens, she couldn't think of an answer. Maybe it's because she was still young and couldn't think of how to manipulate people that well yet. But regardless, I was happy she couldn't think of one. She had fallen asleep at 10:15. Which was lucky for me, because she started to freak me out with all that monster talk. I picked her up and carried her off to bed. My eyes widened when I was about to lay her down. She was already in bed. I looked down at the child I was carrying. Its eyes were open and black.
Are you awake?
I used to be such a sound sleeper. I'd close my eyes, rest my head on the pillow, and when I opened my eyes again a second later, it'd be lights out. That's how it used to be, at least. A week ago, as I was about to get into bed, I heard a loud noise from downstairs. When I went to investigate, I found one of the living room windows wide open, and the lamp on the table next to it, laying on the floor, shattered. I sighed loudly and shut the window tight. I got a dustpan and brush, cleaned up most of what was left of the lamp, and threw it in the trash. I was exhausted by this point, so I groggily walked back up the stairs, into my bedroom and into bed. The warmth of the bed was comforting. I was completely relaxed. That's why I was so curious as to why I couldn't fall asleep. As I said before, I was a sound sleeper. I never had trouble sleeping, especially when I was tired and wanted to sleep. So it was eating at me in the back of my mind, keeping me awake. That was when the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. "Are you awake?" A quiet voice whispered in my ear. I froze. Whoever was speaking was so close that I could feel their warm breath on my ear. I didn't react. I tried my hardest to pretend to be asleep, to hope whoever this was would just leave me alone. After a few minutes, I could no longer feel their breath on my ear, but I still didn't move. I didn't want to until I saw the sunrise. I've never been happier than when I saw that first ray of light the next morning. I jumped out of bed, got dressed, grabbed my car keys, and shot out the front door, having just enough time to look at the now empty table, which once had a lamp. I drove to my closest friend's house and told him what happened. He assured me I could stay with him for a few nights and called the police for me while I sipped some coffee. The police questioned me, as you'd expect, and I gave them my house keys so they could search to see if they could find any evidence. They came back that afternoon to return my keys and told me they found no sign that anyone was still in my house. Unconvinced, or maybe just nervous, I stayed at my friend's house for the rest of the week, finally returning home on Sunday. My friend offered to stay with me, but I assured him it wouldn't be a problem. I did cautiously check the house again, though, just to be sure. Once I was finally confident, I crawled into bed and closed my eyes to drift into what I'd hoped to be my first pleasant sleep this week. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain on my side. I reached down to see what was wrong and found my hands covered in blood. I guess you were awake. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed tonight's story, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time,
Stay spooky.